The CEO just did a huge podcast, and I'll do an entire overview of that. We also have some updates to the Steam charts, as well as even a Steam Deck update, and some characters get their bios rewritten, and some updates with yesterday's video as well as the review embargo. We got a lot to talk about. What's up, World Streamer? Back in the video, and we're checking out all things Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, so let's just jump into the CEO podcast and the interview they did on Friends Per Second. Now, this interview was about 45 minutes long out of a 3-hour podcast, where the CEO of Larian Studios is actually on there. He does mention quite a lot. There are some spoiler stuffs here, so if you don't want to get too far into it, maybe skip this part. There's also some secret and hidden mechanics that, if you didn't know about, are going to be talked about. However, first up, we do have a talk about the ending cinematics and the cinematics in general. He mentioned earlier that he was testing some of the ending cinematics. This kind of goes back to that 17,000 endings thing, but essentially one of those cinematics was over 15 minutes long. He said with everything presented and all the different dialogue scenarios and all the different people talking, the cutscene was over 15 minutes long. Kind of crazy to think about, but it's really cool to see that there is a good wrapped up ending. Now, they also mentioned those secret mechanics or those hidden mechanics that are going to be in the game. One of those we'll talk about right now, which is that the game actually has a printing press. So it seems like in the Baldur's Gate city, which I would assume would be Act 2, there's actually a location for a printing press that has distributions for newspaper. And the crazy thing about this is that it will actually be following you and what is going on basically locally in that town and what your story is about. Not only that, but you can actually alter what the news prints out. So if you wanted to change your story for what the newspaper says comparative to what your actual story is, you can actually change what the newspaper and the printing press puts out. Kind of a cool secret little hidden mechanic there that I don't think many people are talking about or even knew. Now, he did get out of the discussion about Xbox, so we do have an update with Xbox as well. He was very professional in his notions, but he just explained that he completely understands why they want to have both of those systems, the Series S and X, be compatible with the game. He also mentioned that the split screen takes up a ton of memory. He also mentioned that originally they were a PC-focused company, however they wanted to branch out and put things on the console. That's where they got things on the PS5 or the PlayStation before. Now, the unfortunate part here is that the Xbox release might not even happen within this year, or at least within the 2023 era. He mentioned that he wants to try to get it out before the end of the year, but doesn't want to give any or make any promises. It is unfortunate to hear that the Series S is kind of holding back that generation, or at least that console platform is being held back by the Series S. I really wish Microsoft wouldn't have done that and they just took down and kind of stripped the DVD drive from it and made it just purely online, because it's pretty obvious having those hardware differences is definitely holding back some games, or at least games getting put on that platform when they launch like they are right now. Now, we do have some other stuff around the bear scene. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But essentially, for those scenes, they actually hired a movie-level coordinator for it. So they're insane amounts of professionalism for those type of scenes. If they're hiring a movie-level or movie-style coordinator for it, they're definitely putting a lot of thought and effort into it. He also mentioned that the best ones haven't even been shown yet, which I think is pretty obvious. He later iterates that the RP respects exactly what you want, and there isn't anything being forced on you as far as any of that stuff goes. Now, there actually is another hidden mechanic that we have to talk about. Again, there's a little bit of spoiler territory here, so be wary if you don't want to hear that. But as the story goes on, there is actually some character changes that happen. One of those is that a character actually changes their hair based on how they're feeling. Now, this is completely player driven if the character actually does or doesn't change their hair, and what they might potentially change their hair to. But this was just one of the many examples of kind of how the story will progress, as well as the environment and characters around you, which really does showcase some crazy storytelling. As far as the interview goes, that does about cover it for that. We do have that Steam Deck update, and one of the developers for BG3 was actually playing on a Steam Deck. They mentioned here saying going to PAX West simply for the opportunity to play this on a plane for 14 hours without anyone bothering him. And you can clearly tell that he has the full game with him because he has Karlach with him. And as far as I know, this isn't possible in early access. I don't think you can get this companion. You interact with her, but you can't necessarily get her. So some good updates there for the Steam Deck. Also with Steam, Baldur's Gate 3 is actually the top selling right now. So it's the #1 seller on Steam. It's finally topping CSGO now, which I bet it holds this place for a while, even a few days into launch, if not more than a week, and I'm definitely glad to see this type of game is selling so well. Now, Gale actually did get his character bio and art updated. So now on the BG3 website, when you're checking out all the origin characters, you can see the different character bios, and their bio was actually officially updated. I'll leave a link down below to the BG3 website if you want to check out the companions and these origin character bios, as well as everything else I talked about in this video. Now, as far as the review embargo goes, we don't have any news if people have received their copies. I haven't gotten an email back, although I'm going to be honest with you, I do not think I'm going to get accepted. I did apply for partnership / review copy with BG3. However, that was a really big long shot for me, so I doubt that I get any emails back or even get accepted. But if I do receive anything like a decline email or anything like that, I'll be sure to update you guys, letting you guys know what's going on. We have a few comments here mentioning that we'll probably see on Monday. I would assume some people leak today if they get review copies or are going to mention it. If anything does pop up, I'll be sure to put a pinned comment down below with an update. Someone also made a chart on those companions, basically a companion situation sheet. You can kind of see where they align with how they kind of think. And yeah, it has all the companions on here so that you can see like kind of how their personality is a little bit. It's a small little infographic, and there's definitely more convoluted stuff there. But I think it makes it easy to kind of understand how these companions sort of align in their thoughts. I just think it's nice because it kind of encapsulates everything and puts it in a small, nice little chart. We also had a discussion around the BG3 and D&D 5th edition changes. Essentially, this game did receive several changes that are different than the actual 5th edition. There's been some debate there around berserkers no longer having exhaustion after using frenzy. There's some stuff around monks as well as the ranger companions. A lot of people think that haste is just way too overpowered. I think that's why a lot of people are rolling sorcerer instead of wizard. Although I'm still going to stick with wizard as I don't really need anything to make the game easier for me. In fact, I might even play on tactician mode, although I'm still debating if that's going to be too much. Seems like a lot of people agree that exhaustion with berserker is a really good change. So it's good they kind of removed that mechanic there. There's some other few minor debates there, but overall it seems like there's some decent changes. There's some other mentions here about being able to see the full class progression in the character creation. Essentially, people want to see kind of how your character will outline as you progress through the levels. I do think it would be nice to kind of see where it will go with the progression and how things will change along the way. However, it could delve into spoiler stuff, and yeah, I think you should probably make the changes and kind of see how it plays out during the playthrough. There's also that BG3 class planner guide that I went through in my last video. There's an entire class planner there, and I'm going to use that a lot for my August 2nd video when I drop my wizard build guide, or what I'm mostly going to be following. And if I do make any changes during my playthrough, I'll be sure to make an updated video on what changes I made to the wizard. I do have a build guide out right now, and it is pretty good. There's a few missed things that I speak on, and maybe 1 or 2 changes that I would make at a different level. However, for the most part, it's pretty accurate, and there's some pretty good stuff in there. So I'll leave a link down below for that if you want to check that one out. All in all, that does about cover for everything that we talked about. Again, if I hear any news on the embargo, if I get any emails or see any other content creator post about the reviews or getting the review code, I'll be sure to update in a pinned comment down below. Also, check out the community wiki. There's a brand new community wiki, and it's filled with tons of useful information. Also, I do want to thank you guys yesterday for the feedback for everything. I'll be sure to keep trying to make those better changes for the future. Honestly, I try to read through all the feedback that I received down below, so don't feel bad for posting it. That does about cover for today's video. If you like, and subscribe, and until the next one. Deuce!